What's going on, everyone? Back with another video. So we got this new ad from Pierre, and it's called "They're Paying for His Trade Failures." I wonder what he's talking about. I wonder who he's talking about. We're going to find out very shortly. It's a little bit of a lengthy video. It's about 5 minutes. Now, before we get into this, please don't forget to like and subscribe because it really does help grow the channel, and I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. But we're gonna get into this, then we'll talk about it and see what he's got to say.
Well, we can start with the good news. It's been a great crop in Provost, Alberta, and right across much of the prairies. The bad news, unfortunately, is that the Chinese government has hit us with another round of tariffs, this time 75% on Canadian canola seed. That's on top of the 100% tariffs on Canadian canola oil and meal and peas, plus a 25% tariff on seafood, on pork, and other Canadian producers have been targeted. It's another kick to Canada as the world just seems to be thinking that it can walk all over the Canadian economy under the weak leadership of this Liberal government. To add insult to injury, Mark Carney seems determined to go ahead giving a taxpayer-funded $1 billion loan to Beijing and to Chinese shipmakers to make ferries for British Columbia. That's right, the Canadian government.
You ever wonder why Mark Carney campaigned on this crap with elbows up towards America, but when China is putting tariffs on it, or putting tariffs on us, I don't hear any talk about elbows being put up. Oh, maybe because he's in business with them. Maybe the reason he's not actually being tough on Trump is because he's got 91% of his investments in the United States. Boy, Canadians who voted Liberal, or Liberals in general, you got duped. You got played so hard. And the coping I see in my comment sections, oh, we don't need a trade deal anyway. Actually, we do. And that's probably why Mark Carney campaigned on it. He just campaigned on being tough about it. Tough with Donald Trump. And he hasn't been. Not one bit.
Is backing a $1 billion loan that will go to the construction of ferries for British Columbia that are made in China. So imagine the lesson that this sends to the government in Beijing, that if they attack our farmers, they get $1 billion of credit from our government. But, you know, it stacks up yet another loss that we're facing that is painful for our workers, our farmers, our businesses, since Carney was elected on the promise, by the way, that he would be a master negotiator that would negotiate wins for Canada. He said he could handle Donald Trump. Remember that one? Well, what's been the result since? One, Carney's missed 2 of his promised deadlines to get a deal with the Americans. Under that period of time, the president has actually doubled tariffs on Canada while the Prime Minister continues to back down, making concession after concession on digital services tax, on counter tariffs, getting absolutely nothing in return. Sounds like elbows down to me. The Americans, meanwhile, are signing trade deals with Japan and Europe. They've given extensions to China and Mexico, no such extension to Canada. And speaking of other markets, well, what's happening around the world? Liberal ministers went down to Mexico, groveling for a bilateral deal. The Mexicans sent them packing. Prime Minister went and did some photo ops in Europe. But while President Trump has signed a deal with the Europeans to sell $750 billion of American energy to the European Union, the EU has promised to buy exactly 0 Canadian dollars worth of Canadian energy from our oil and gas, which is actually could be even more competitive if we had a government that would be opening up markets and allowing pipelines to get it there. In other words, Carney is losing, and the more he loses abroad, the more Canadian farmers, workers, and businesses pay here at home. But it doesn't have to be this way. Conservatives are going back to Parliament in the fall, and we're going to be fighting to put Canada first. We've got a real plan to do it. First of all, we want to cancel the $1 billion loan for the Chinese-made vessels. Let's focus on building those types of things here in Canada so we can be strong, self-reliant, and sovereign. Speaking of sovereign, we also want to pass a Canadian Sovereignty Act, which will unleash our economic independence. by taking advantage of our incredible resources. For example, it would legalize pipeline construction by repealing C-69, legalize shipping of oil off the North BC coast by repealing C-48, unlocking the production of Canadian energy by getting rid of the production cap. It would legalize your right into the future to continue to buy a gas or diesel powered truck or car, which is necessary for our farmers all across these rural regions. It would bring in a massive tax cut on energy, home building, investment, and work. The most interesting of which is that we would get rid of capital gains tax for anyone who reinvests their proceeds here in Canada. A huge win for farmers who might be selling one investment and moving it to another Canadian investment, all while bringing home the $500 billion of capital that the Liberals have driven into the United States of America. This is a real plan to make our economy stronger and more self-reliant. We need to strategically counter-tariff Beijing in order to dissuade them from going ahead with these tariffs on our Canadian producers. And we need to work with Canadian Western farmers to make sure that they have the supports they need to compensate them for the losses that these tariff defeats have incurred on their families and on their operations. But we can do it. We can unlock the potential of this big, vast land, standing up for our farmers, our workers, and our businesses. And that will be our objective when we get back to Parliament this fall.
Now, to me, that sounds like it's Canada first.
C-48.
Right? You have this guy who is saying, hey, let's cancel this $1 billion loan to build ferries for BC Ferries. Let's build them here. Creates work. It creates jobs. People have more money in their pocket. These would be good paying jobs as well with good benefits, and maybe even a union as long as it's a good union. But we're not doing that. And again, Mark Carney's elbows are firmly down when it comes to dealing with Trump and now China. Trump's walking all over us. Xi Jinping is walking all over us. Who's next? Zelensky? Oops. How about Putin? Like, how many other countries, what about Modi from India? Are they all just going to say, wow, we can just walk all over this place? What a weak leader. And Mr. Burns isn't going to do anything about it. What a bunch of crap. And this is why I love when Pierre Poilievre comes out with these ads, because they're brilliant and they expose the Liberal lies and the fact that nothing's getting done. What about all those major projects Mark Carney talked about? Bringing them in at record speed. What speed? What projects? I don't see any of this happening. And now our farmers are getting crushed. Our steel industry is on its way to getting crushed. Probably our auto industry too. Looks like we're headed for a major recession. Poverty goes up. Homelessness goes up. And by the way, every time that happens, a small percentage of the population passes away. And I'm sure most of you know this. You guys have common sense. But for the Liberals out there, no food equals, or no money equals no food. No food equals you don't exist anymore. I hope I explained it well enough for them. You know, I try to explain things to them like they're kindergartners because that's the way they behave, with their elbows up. And I know, well, don't be mean to them because they're never going to listen to you. They're going to get offended. Yeah, that's your problems. You're always offended all the time instead of thinking. People criticize me too, and sometimes when they criticize me, they're right. And even though maybe they're a little bit mean about it, sometimes they're right, and that's really all that matters. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care if you're mad at me. I don't care if you're upset. You're voting Liberal, and then you vote Liberal, and the Liberals are destroying the country. Then they replace the Liberal with another Liberal, and you vote for them again. And you think I'm not going to call you stupid? Sorry. But I've had enough. I got no sympathy for people who either didn't vote or voted Liberal and contributed to the problem that we're still having. Well, you know, the Liberals lie all the time, but I believe them this time. Well, then you're a fool. And you need to wake the hell up. And for those of you who do have common sense, please share these videos to people who either don't vote or are swing voters and make them understand how silly their decision was to vote back in Mark Carney or a liberal and to not vote for Pierre Poilievre. To give this guy a chance. And again, we have to hold him accountable, but he needs a chance. He will say, 20 years of Parliament, what's he done? Well, last time I checked, when he was housing minister, housing was affordable. How about that? What did Trudeau do? What's Mark Carney done? What's one major accomplishment? Well, he's given us a tax break. It's like $30 a month. Rent has more than doubled under the Liberal regime. Like, give your head a shake. That's not a major groundbreaking deal. It's crumbs off the table. We need the young people of this country to understand. Right? And a lot of them voted Carney. They were going to go vote for Pierre Poilievre. They changed their mind, but they're young. Or this might be their first election. They don't understand the deep history of lying and corruption that this Liberal Party has. And trust me, the Conservatives are sure far from perfect, but they've never destroyed the country before. But they'll learn. They'll realize, okay, it was Trudeau. We heard about him. But this new guy, this Mark Carney guy, he's going to be good. Then they're going to learn that, no, he's no good. And then they're going to start to wake up and realize that this is a party problem, not a Justin Trudeau or a Mark Carney problem. We need to spread the message, so please help me do that. Please leave your comments. I really enjoy engaging with you guys. And again, please don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps me grow and spread this message even more as well. Thanks for watching. I'll be back shortly with a new one.